They say democracy dies in darkness.
They do.
And I guess it fucking does. I guess it has died in the darkness.
It's actively dying in the darkness.
Yeah, it's been killed in the darkness, really.
Yeah.
By the people that own it, I suppose, or own the slogan.
What a fucking world that we live in. You got a newspaper out there, the Washington Post. Slogan lives and dies by this idea that democracy dies in the darkness. Its billionaire owner, former richest man in the world, gets on Twitter this week and just drops a soliloquy of evil.
Hey, we're doing propaganda.
Yeah.
Even harder. It's not like the WAPO's ever been like this no such thing as objectivity in this space. You know what I mean?
But it's like they've been getting worse. And it's like the statement he put out is just like the nail in the coffin. They already did the thing where they approved all of Trump's cabinet appointments just because he's the president so he can appoint them.
Yeah.
So that's interesting.
Liberal media is already bending the knee like all over the place, right? Like we had, was it the ABC lawsuit where they just settled even though they had like an actual claim? There's a number, like there's Morning Joe, those two going and meeting with Trump and like backing down from the hostile coverage. And then of course there's all these newspapers that are functionally just giving up, except for groups like Reuters and the AP who are actually still holding out.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably because they're like international. It's not just a US based thing.
That's true.
But like, yeah, a lot of, obviously the billionaires are falling in line because they're in support of the agenda, but like all of these news outlets just completely giving up. And Jeff Bezos is the latest example of that.
Surprise, surprise, the billionaire-owned news outlets are also falling in line, which is, I feel like billionaire-owned news outlet is like, maybe oxymoron's not the right word, but it's whatever the essence of that is.
Yeah.
You know, that shouldn't be a thing that's allowed to happen. We should not have the richest man in the world be able to, I don't know, own telecommunications.
Yeah, but for this cold open, we're going to talk about this tweet from Jeff Bezos. Bezos basically shared a message with how the Washington Post editorial board is going to be functioning, their op-ed section. And I want to read some quotes from this tweet.
Okay.
Bezos said, quote, "We are going to be writing every day in support and defense of two pillars, personal liberties and free markets. We'll cover other topics too, of course, but viewpoints opposing those pillars will be left to be published by others."
We are doing censorship at the Washington Post. We are censoring opposing viewpoints here at the Washington Post, and we are only putting out pieces of media that align with the narrative that we want to set and make you believe.
Yeah, and he basically justifies this position by saying that the internet now disseminates enough views where they don't need to be responsible for like sharing the wide range of ideological viewpoints.
Yeah.
Like he basically said that we don't need to cover the news objectively because like, the internet will handle that for us.
It's different when you're like a podcaster or when you're like a media figure like Ben Shapiro and you're obviously like doing your thing, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's different when you're a newspaper. Because being like a newspaper, being a part of like what is the legacy media comes with this air of legitimacy that regular people follow and believe. Regular people see newspaper and automatically think that's like a trusted source. Yeah. Unless it's like CNN.
Yeah, as a newspaper, you get legit. As the Washington Post, the Washington Post, you get legitimacy.
Yeah.
Because it's been a legitimate paper for so long.
No matter who you are, you're seeing like a New York Times article and you're thinking like, okay, this has at least got something to it. I may not agree with it, but there's something there. There's journalistic integrity that's involved with producing these things. And not anymore, I guess.
Yeah, and again, this is just the I believe this is just the opinion piece section, but he's basically saying we're going to be fighting in support solely of personal liberties and free markets, which just translates to me as we're going to fall in line anytime Trump tries to like deregulate, do tax cuts, manage wealth transfers or anything like that. Like our newspaper will be pushing that propaganda.
What personal liberties are you talking about? I feel like that's a really vague term, and when you're talking about personal liberties when it's coupled with only pro-free market opinions, which it's like, this is not just free market opinions. This is not, if this was just about publishing opinions that fall in line with ushering forth the free market, there'd be Wealth of Nations types critiques in there.
And we got that a dime a dozen.
Exactly.
That's all over the place.
Happens everywhere. Everybody's pretty much into that shit.
Yeah, there's no paper out here like, oh yeah, we should nationalize the railroads.
There's not a unified front of people like us out here that are competing with the Washington Post. This is ridiculous, especially to like target your opinion column like this. Because once you go to your opinion column and you say we are only going to be pushing forward opinions that are pro this one specific ideology or this one specific framework, it ceases to be an opinion column.
Yeah.
The point of an opinion column in a fucking newspaper that has like legitimacy like the Washington Post or the New York Times is that you're publishing various different sides of a story or various different opinions from your trusted opinion contributors. Sometimes they're dumb, sometimes they're fine, but you're publishing a wide variety of things so that your readers can consider different perspectives and like come to their own thing.
Yeah.
That's what an opinion column is for, and once you stop doing that, you're not an opinion column, you're a propaganda outlet.
And also, like, other people that aren't a part of the paper can submit opinion essays that can then be published through the paper if they're, like, approved.
And it's the editorial board's job to decide, does this opinion piece have merit? Is this just a piece of schlock, a piece of propaganda, or is this rooted in maybe something?
Yeah, is this like an argument the public should see, basically? Yeah, so not great. But I have another section here that I think is a bit more ideologically revealing for Bezos himself. He says, quote, "I am of America and for America and proud to be so. Our country did not get here. By being typical, and a big part of America's success has been freedom in the economic realm and everywhere else. Freedom is ethical. It minimizes coercion, and practical. It drives creativity, invention, and prosperity." Fucking delusional. The history of America is the history of preventing people from being free, both here and abroad. Like, you are completely delusional.
Even the history of innovation in America, isn't the internet a result of like the military
Public
and
funding.
porn?
Yep. It is not the result of free market forces.
Absolutely not. Most of our medical discoveries are not a result of free market forces.
Yes.
And the medical discoveries that are a result of free market forces are, surprise, surprise, underscored by research that is publicly funded.
Yeah. Of course.
That's what it is. Wasn't there another like little section in here that he's talking about like America's great past or something like that? Maybe that was the section, but what I thought when I was reading this sort of thing is America was its greatest economically. America was the most prosperous economically and on the up and up the most back when we taxed motherfuckers like you to oblivion.
Mm-hmm.
Back when FDR put in a 90% top marginal tax rate.
50% corporate tax rate, yeah.
That's when America was prospering. Mm-hmm. That's when they love to evoke that time without actually thinking about the policies that made that something that was good economically.
Yeah. Like, that was a period of great state investment, which drove a lot of our economic success. There was also a time of, like, immense social strife where many people were not free.
Yes.
Or could not be considered to be free because, segregation was a thing.
Yeah.
And that was 60 years ago or, like, 80 years ago.
It's like they love to invoke the isolated incidences of, like, you could be a father could be a breadwinner working as a fucking milkman and be able to buy a 40-bedroom house. Mm-hmm. They love to invoke that without understanding anything else that was happening during that time. They don't want to talk about Jim Crow. They don't want to talk about the horrible, rampant racism and anti-LGBTQ discrimination, anti-woman shit that was going on, all the misogyny. Women couldn't get credit cards. Yeah. On the same wavelength. They don't want to talk about that. They just want to talk about, you used to be able to do this. And they don't want to look at the economics of why people were able to do that.
Yeah. All this is saying, this is just like a very pathetic attempt to justify him completely falling in line behind the Trump administration and this Republican Party.
And it's so obvious, too. Yeah. Like, you can't even respect the game here. Yep. You know what I'm saying?
And this was sort of ended, this series of, or I guess this just long tweet post was ended by basically saying that David Shipley, the former opinion editor, is going to be stepping down because he did not enthusiastically support this direction.
Nice.
So I don't know if this was like a forced firing or a forced, like, resignation or what it might have been, but it seems like this guy's getting off board. I don't even know if David Shipley's like good at his job or anything.
I mean, low-key, like, most opinion editors, like, allow horrible opinions to like go out there.
And like most opinions are fucking stupid, like for the reasons he thinks are good.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I got beef with opinion editors, but I think this is moving in the wrong direction.
This is like even worse than the already low bar that they had.
Yes. Yes, precisely. Welcome back to the show, everybody. Today we got a lot to talk about.
It's been a week.
We got quite a bit to talk about, and it's been especially a week. Look, we're recording on Saturday this week.
Yes, we are.
And yesterday, Zelensky got accosted in the White House, in the Oval Office. And that was a late addition to this week's show notes.
It really was a sight to see, man. Yeah. And it's like there were just a few clips that were circulating around there that honestly really did tell the whole story of J.D. Vance just being a shitter.
Being a fucking cornball that should be locked
up. I'm saying, man.
Should be locked up. But we'll be talking about that later this episode. We got to talk about that House bill that, of course, that is on its way to passage, or I guess just
unfortunately passed
the House. Yeah. We got to talk about a little Michigan news this week, too.
Yeah, we do.
We got our own shenanigans here.
You know what I'm saying? Great state. Well, maybe not.
Yeah.
Maybe not.
Before we get into all of that, though, I will remind you to become a patron, support the show, get early access to literally everything we do.
That's it.
Over on the Patreon.
And that's cool.
Commercial-free episodes, that's what you want.
Help beat the news cycle, because God knows it loves to beat us.
Oh, it beats us bad.
And just help stay on top of things with your two favorite white boys out of mid-Michigan.
Something crazy could happen between now and Wednesday as normal.
Exactly, yeah. Remember when Tucker Carlson got fired the day after we said there's no way in hell he gets fired?
Here we are.
Insulate yourself from incidents like that. Also, insulate yourself from us whining on here when we don't get 5-star reviews by going and leaving a 5-star review like these two beautiful, wonderful people have. We got this first one out here from Yobdog, I hope I said that right. #1 podcast. Love the pod. I subscribe to the belief that good things are good and bad things are bad.
Exactly.
Unfortunately, the only thing improving my material conditions this week, conditions week to week, is y'all. Keep up the good work. P.S. I condemn all acts of political violence. We don't want who's in the line of succession anyway.
That's
and
true.
You know what?
That's a good point.
The greatest point that I think you could make for the people that may not condemn political violence is things wouldn't be good anyway.
I thought in there they were going to say the only thing improving my marital status.
And you know what? For some of you, maybe that's true. Yeah. Maybe Hitto's bringing families together.
Maybe we've played matchmaker. Maybe people have bonded over listening to Hitto and now they're together.
Oh my God, I wonder, got to be at least one of you out there who went on a date one time and you're like, oh my God, I love this podcast from these two white boys from mid-Michigan. And they're like, wait, head in the office?
Uh-huh.
And then you bond.
That's important. This next one here from Striped Funky Hair, an actually good white boy podcast. They say, to begin, I condemn Hamas and all forms of political violence.
Respect.
Living in the great Hoosier state of Indiana, being Latino, gay, and trans, I need to keep up with the news to see what rights I'm losing every week. Bleak. The Hitto Boys make this and all their content events on all levels more digestible while still being entertaining. I found you guys about a year ago on YouTube Shorts. I'm aware that's lame. And haven't missed an episode since. As I finish out my law degree at my socialist indoctrinating institution, I am depreciated to a Wednesday weenie, but just you wait till I get my money up. Keep up the good work, comrades. Thanks. Man, and I hope you're doing well in Indiana.
Of indoctrinating institutions. Yep. Another great thing over there on the Patreon is the Hitto Postcard Program. And folks,
truth.
You're going to be real upset when you find out what you missed out on this time around. Because this quite literally was our best work. I'm going to get these in the mail on Monday. I just finished up mine, and man, we were cooking.
Are they all getting sent out Monday?
They're all getting sent out on Monday.
Okay,
whole set getting sent out on Monday, gang, and you're going to be awaiting them. Some of you may even get them before Wednesday, before you even got the announcement that you'll get them.
This is a big deal.
And you'll say, what is this? And then you'll get something in the mail that will quite literally blow your mind.
Change your life.
Change your life.
That's what I'm thinking.
Exactly.
Life-changing, yeah.
Whew.
So get excited for that. Also, one last reminder that we're going to be at the Farmington Community Library on March 8th.
Yeah, there's still time to sign up.
This is a Saturday event. That's March 8th. So make sure to sign up. The link is in the description.
Fly in.
I don't know how many. Yeah, fly in if you need to. Get your plane tickets. Yep. Maybe brave the plane.
Maybe get your train tickets. You know what? Road trip.
Yeah, drive. Might be a bit safer. But that link is in the description if you'd want to attend that event. We're looking forward to seeing some of you.
14 spots left last time I checked. So make sure you get in.
We'll be talking about podcasting.
Lots
of podcasting news.
And then maybe we'll chop it up after.
Yeah, maybe we'll chop it up after. We'll see what happens there. But yeah, that link's in the description. If you want to come to that event, we'd be overjoyed to see some Hitto heads in person.
God, that would be crazy.
I know some of you have told us that you've already signed up.
Oh,
so we'll see if you go.
First Hitto head unofficial meet and greet.
Maybe you'll get too nervous.
Oh shit. maybe you'll stand at the front door and then you'll see us get up there and say, "Hey guys, welcome to this event," and you'll be like, "I can't do it."
Or maybe I'll get too nervous. I'll crash out.
I'll be up there shaking. So,
all right. We should probably get into the news here. First thing we got to talk about the House.
Yeah, we do.
Passing massive spending cuts.
And you know,
not great.
House divided can't stand it, whatnot. But it seems like they're really standing their hardest to push through evil.
A House united by one vote can cut trillions of dollars of spending, I guess.
A House that passes a budget through a special process on the slimmest majority literally possible within that House can do great evil.
Yeah. We couldn't get one more person to be like, maybe not this.
Literally.
One more Republican. One last thinking Republican couldn't be like, hey, maybe this is a bit too far.
Maybe this is a bit too far. I don't know what kind of dirt Mike Johnson had on like $4 trillion in tax cuts just fucking passed in the House. And their budget reconciliation bill, like their version of the bill, just passed 217 to 215, $4.5 trillion in tax cuts, and $2 trillion in spending cuts.
They got what they wanted.
Not not even enough to cover the tax cuts.
Just a reminder that the Senate did not pass this bill.
No.
Last week we talked about the Senate version of the bill, which was actually they authorized an increase in spending, I believe, on like immigration stuff, defense stuff, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And they called for spending cuts to Medicare, Medicaid, and whatnot.
For the love of the game.
Although they won't say that, but that's where it's coming from. But this bill does so much more.
Oh, yeah.
So much more.
This is the one big, beautiful bill that Trump talked about.
Yeah.
We'll get into his statements about the bill in a little bit. But like I said, the bill passed 217 to 215. All Democrats voted no. Thank God, unlike the Lake and Riley Act, they all stood together on this one to do something good, I guess. With one Republican, Thomas Massie, I think was his name. Yep. I don't know where he's from. He probably still sucks, but shout out. I guess he's the one Republican that doesn't want to kill your grandma. Mm-hmm. He doesn't want to kill any poor person that's on Medicaid, is the bare minimum that we're working with here in the party.
We couldn't peel off like any of the Freedom Caucus dudes.
Yeah,
like
we couldn't peel off Chip Roy.
Yeah.
This as it's written is going to add $2.5 trillion.
Yeah.
And Chip Roy loves talking about blah, blah, blah. Debt. We can't add any more of the debt. We got to cut the entire federal government to reduce the debt. And this is what he's voting for?
$4.5 trillion in tax cuts is insane.
That's what I'm saying, dude. That's ridiculous.
Money,
and we already did the $4.5 trillion back in 2017 with the first version of the Trump Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. And as we went over last episode, it didn't help anybody but the people making more than $800,000 a year.
That shit sucked.
That sucks so hard.
Yep.
That sucks so hard.
Stock
and like some small businesses.
This is the wealth transfer, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
You divest from public services, cut taxes for the rich, and the money just moves up the chain.
Well,
because you fundamentally need the government to redistribute the wealth. Otherwise, people just get suffocated. It's just feudalism.
No, because when you cut the corporate tax rate, corporations are incentivized to reinvest that in their employees who are the basis of all the profit that they make. They won't just buy back stock with it.
Well, and they recognize that labor is the source of value.
Yes.
All CEOs recognize
All
that.
CEOs understand this, and so when they're making their decisions after they get these massive slashes in the corporate tax rate, they think, should we buy back stock or should we pay our employees? They choose the right option.
Mm-hmm. They do every time.
They do every single time. And then they don't pay themselves just exuberant bonuses that are more money than God, like year over year. That doesn't happen. So I've actually changed my position. Tax cuts are good. But either way, back to this new budget. This new budget, if taken in its current form by the Senate, would direct the House Committee on Energy and Commerce to find $880 billion in cuts from the services under their purview. That committee is the committee that oversees Medicare, Medicaid, and like a couple of other programs. But Medicare and Medicaid are the two big ones that make 80 to 90% of their overall 10-year budget.
Yeah.
Because this is all in 10-year budget terms. That's just kind of like a thing that works. But either way, there are other expenses, but the other expenses only amount to around $600 to $700 billion. Most of those other expenses are also healthcare related.
Fun.
So we have Medicare, Medicaid making up the majority of the budget. And then we have $600 to $700 billion in other money that's under this committee's purview. And $400, $500 billion of that are just healthcare in another way.
Cool.
So
cuts that will still be damaging.
This is the Committee on Healthcare.
Yeah.
That's functionally what it is. And conservatives in the House, 217 of them said, we want to gut healthcare.
Yeah. Almost unanimous.
Any healthcare the government provides, you need to find $880 billion to take away from it.
Mm-hmm.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
Very interesting things going on there. And while the text of the budget doesn't direct the committee explicitly to cut Medicaid, they don't have any other options. Mm-hmm. They don't. According to the New York Times, if they were to cut all non-healthcare related spending they could find, they would still need $600 billion more in budget cuts.
Yeah. It's going to be
Where's
Medicaid.
that fucking money going to come from? They could save an additional $2 billion if and only if they cut CHIP, which is the Children's Health Insurance Program. But then, even after they cut the Children's Health Insurance Program, they would be short $400 billion.
It's comically evil.
Yeah.
I'm cutting the Children's Health Insurance Program, man.
Children
Come on.
have health insurance. 217 Republican congresspeople just said no.
Yeah.
And you can't make that up.
There's no excuse for that. The common argument if you're on welfare is you should just work for everything you got. You shouldn't rely on the government, or you shouldn't rely on handouts or whatever. But they're kids though.
Exactly. This is children.
Kids.
This is the Children's Health Insurance Program.
Talking about kids, man.
I think that giving health insurance and health care and things like food, free school lunches to kids is one of the greatest goods that government can do. Not according to Republicans. Republicans would rather your CEO that doesn't even know your name, and if he does, probably fucking hates you, get more caviar lunches and 3 martini lunches than your child have access to health insurance.
Well, that'll trickle down to the kids' health care plans. Fucking party of family values.
Well, because that CEO provides health care to the parents at an exuberant amount, at an amount that will gut them financially.
Party of family values, right?
Exactly.
Protecting the kids
the
and
party
whatnot.
of family values. I think a great family value would be healthcare, but I fucking digress. In this New York Times article that I read, though, they really did a good job at trying to just find any money that they could under this committee's purview that would allow this $880 billion in cuts to go through without cutting Medicare and Medicaid.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about some of the examples that the New York Times provided as ways that they could cut money elsewhere without, cutting Medicaid.
Yeah, and I appreciate the New York Times doing this. I have a story from the AP on the VA later.
Yeah.
And they did the same sort of thing where they just are combing through data to see what they could find to justify this or to make the math work. I love that they're doing that, and it's good work. But it's hilarious that the Republicans will not do that.
No.
They will not comb through. They will not take a chisel. It's just going to be cut this, cut that.
And it's the funniest part about it in this specific case here, when it comes to Medicaid and Medicare, is New York Times did that, and they're still short.
Oh, God.
They
awesome.
They fucking went to the ends of the earth to find money, and at the end of it, you still need to cut Medicaid. So that's wonderful. But, to lessen the blow to Medicaid, that House committee could sell parts of the airwaves to telecom companies.
Privatize.
And exactly. They could literally sell government airspace, airwaves, radio signals and whatnot, to telecommunications companies so that they could advertise to you.
Awesome.
So that they could make you listen to more ads that you don't want to fucking listen to. New York Times estimates that could amount to about $70 billion in cuts as a way to raise revenue to offset the money that they're supposed to lose. They could speed up permitting for energy extraction, and that would save about $70 billion. Excellent work. And they could also overturn regulations that require car makers to raise fuel efficiency standards and reduce emissions. The New York Times is estimating that this could save about $110 billion because it would specifically reduce government spending on tax cuts for electric cars and increasing gas tax revenue. Notably, like I said earlier, even if you pursue all of these other options, you cut CHIP, you cut all of the other expenses under this committee, and you sell the airwaves, get rid of electric car tax credits, and, I don't know, drill, baby, drill. You still are about over $200 billion short.
That's awesome.
And the only possible way to avoid cutting Medicaid in this instance is to cut Medicare.
And they're going to cut Medicaid
and
first.
they're going to cut Medicaid before they ever even dare to cut Medicare. Although I will say Medicare's next.
Yeah.
This is all leading towards massive cuts to all of these programs.
I think you can use both at once, can't you? People over 65 on Medicare can also use resources from Medicaid. I think
so. Yeah.
And I was listening to, I can't remember what podcast it was now, but they were basically saying that sometimes you'll use Medicaid without even knowing it, just because you are eligible. You're eligible for the funding under some for whatever treatment you need. So Medicaid will just kick in and you'll be able to use it and you don't even know. And if they go through with these cuts and you're suddenly not eligible, your bill's just going to grow. You're going to either go into debt or you just don't get your treatment.
Nice.
Which is the worst outcome.
Love that.
Yeah.
What a wonderful future we have to look forward to. You know what I'm saying? There's literally no path forward that does not involve substantial cuts to Medicaid with this House budget or Medicaid and Medicare, which, as we just talked about, Medicaid cuts are functionally kind of Medicare cuts.
Yeah.
For as well as people understand it in their day-to-day lives. So not good, folks. Not good, folks. And, I would have to say the Trump agenda just is cutting programs like Medicaid.
Yeah.
They're not doing anything to hide it anymore. We've been talking ever since we started this podcast about how Republicans want to cut entitlement programs.
They try to
want
do it
cut
every
Social
single
Security.
year.
They want to cut Medicare.
Yeah.
They want to get rid of these things. They try to do it in the background, and then in public they say no, they don't. Now we are reaching the point where it is just public information. They are just explicitly doing this. They are not hiding it anymore. This is the Trump agenda. This is what's happening under Trump. Trump had nothing to say to critique this bill. In fact, he called this bill a, quote, big first step win for Speaker Mike Johnson and America. Yeah. This guy fucks with the bill. Donald Trump fucks with the idea that you are going to lose benefits offered by Medicaid. He is fully endorsing that. That's the president.
Yeah. Yeah.
How did we get here? How did we get here? This is not a big win for America. Remember, Medicaid covers 72 million poor and or disabled people.
And kids as well.
1 in 5 adults are covered by Medicaid.
I think it's something like 41% of all births are in some way covered by Medicaid.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think like 1 in 4 children may be covered by Medicaid. I don't have that number, but everything else we've said is true.
And that number goes up in red states, which are typically poorer, because of course it does. Medicaid covers for poor people and children and disabled people. So of course it's going to go up in those states where those issues are more prominent. It's fucking insane. Like I don't understand how they think they can get away with it. I'm not going to doubt the ability of the median voter to just like skirt past this kind of stuff because like infuriating, you know what I mean? But when people start losing healthcare, when they can't afford like prescriptions that they need or they can't afford treatments that they need, I don't think it's within human nature to just roll over and die.
No.
Like, this is the kind of shit that causes riots, and if people know where to direct energy, it's going to be bad for them. I condemn all political violence.
I do.
But, like, I understand the sort of synthesizing of material forces in this way. And when you take people's healthcare away, they won't just give up and die.
Well,
like, this is bad.
You look at these Republican town halls all across the country, and people are screaming at their representatives. And we did not want cuts to these programs. We wanted you to deport immigrants, not fucking cut our healthcare.
And it does infuriate me that, like, people are only angry now because they're getting hit by cuts.
Yeah.
It's like, this administration's evil. We've been telling you they were going to cut this stuff and come after your healthcare, Social Security, and whatnot. But I'm glad you're on board now.
Yep.
But yeah, we're 5 weeks in, 6 weeks in, something like that, and people are already screaming in deep red districts at their deep red congressman.
I think his approval rating is already starting to tank, like way quicker than Joe Biden's tanked, which is crazy. Bro keeps setting records, but evil ones. Like I can't believe it. You know what I'm saying? And I want to take a moment to like speak to what you said about red states, because red states are going to be affected by Medicaid cuts more so than blue states. Red states are economic drains on the country. They genuinely are. They do not produce as much as blue states, except for with the exception of, I think, Texas and Florida. I think those may be the only red states.
Yeah,
maybe there's a couple more that actually
way.
make more money than they take in federal government assistance. But everywhere else, fucking Missouri, Alabama, these other fucking places, they are drains on the system. Medicaid gets dispersed to the states. Like the feds fund the states to run their Medicaid programs. And then the states share, I think, half of the administrative costs. And that's it. When these funding cuts hit, red states are not going to be able to make up the budget shortfall as easily as blue states like Michigan, Chicago, California, fucking Vermont will be able to. And that's just a fact of the matter. Like, people in the red states have the most to lose from things like this, and I'm glad they're waking up, but it's infuriating that they didn't see this coming when we've been screaming about it.
And it's like, it's only in blue states where we can really talk about, like, oh, what if we had like a state universal healthcare plan? Like, those are conversations that can happen in states that have these massive like economic engines, like California has Los Angeles or New York City, you know what I mean? It can happen in a place like Texas and Florida, but Greg Abbott's evil, DeSantis is evil. But yeah, everywhere else, they're just basically fucked. And these red states are often, are also known for like denying ACA expansions to Medicaid. Intentionally not giving federal benefits that they just get to their citizens.
Aren't there like 9 states that haven't expanded?
Something like
Medicaid
that,
or something like that. I don't know if they're all red, but
because they hate you and want you to die. But that's sort of the point. Is like, I don't think the governments of these states are going to be too upset, but the people there will be, because they will be suffering a lot more even than they are now under the rule of Republicans in their red state. Yeah, it's going to be bad.
And it's like, I feel like there's something to say about like Trump and his specific brand is like a reason why maybe they will be able to get away with this if they do end up getting away with this, because people just fucking believe what he says for some reason.
Trump will get away with this. Trump gets away with, like, we'll talk about the Epstein stuff later. The Epstein
my God, yeah.
Republicans were like who deceived Trump on this? Like, somebody's lying to Trump.
I saw a massive cope on we'll talk about it later, but either way, like, Trump just gets on there and lies. Trump lied. The budget passed this week that will cut Medicaid upwards of $880 billion fucking dollars. When last week he went on Fox News and he told, I don't know, whatever person was interviewing him, probably Sean Hannity glazing all over it, that he wasn't going to cut Medicaid, that Medicaid was off the table. He routinely goes publicly and says he's not going to cut Medicaid, and then he praises Speaker Johnson for fucking cutting Medicaid. He is lying to you. And if you don't think that Social Security and Medicare are next, I don't think there's anything that could convince you other than you losing your benefits when Social Security and Medicare get cut next.
I mean, like we said last week, they're already closing Social Security offices. And if that's not a precursor, what is?
That's a functional cut to a lot of people.
And it is a cut.
People will not drive 3 hours to get their benefits. Like if they lose their offices in rural areas, that's something that's not going to happen. They're already cutting Social Security.
Like, you can sort of see politically how they're working their way up. Like first it was, like research grants for cancer and whatnot at universities. Well, first it was like USAID and all like the woke stuff, right? DEI. And then we're getting like the cuts that people don't pay attention to, but they should, like Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. Or the NLRB, and now they're getting to Medicaid. They're on the cusp of doing that, and then once they get around to it, they'll get to Medicare and they'll get to Social Security, and maybe it won't be as bad as like Social Security is just gone, but it'll be cuts for people like us, or cuts for people that are in their 40s or in their 50s who are still more than a decade out from retiring, but now they push the years out. You got to wait till 75 until you can retire, and that's how we're going to save funding for this social program, or we're going to push the age at which you're eligible for Medicare out to 75 instead of 65, right? Like these are cuts to the programs that maybe don't immediately affect old people, which is a part of their base, old white people, but will certainly hurt vast swaths of this country. When it comes to Medicaid, though, I feel like this is the kind of shit that causes riots in the streets.
Gotta be.
Because this is how you kill kids.
1 in 5 adults are on Medicaid. 72 million Americans are on Medicaid.
Yeah.
That's an insane amount of people to be, making their services worse for.
I think it's like 35% of Mike Johnson's state.
Louisiana. Me when I'm a Republican, you know what I'm saying?
Well, Louisiana.
And it's like, Republicans are doing everything they can to make cancer worse.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
They started by defunding cancer research, and now they're defunding the healthcare that will treat you if you get cancer. What are we doing?
I don't see how people can just fuck with this, especially when it's like children. Like we're cutting cancer treatments for kids. We're cutting cancer research for kids.
Yep.
We're cutting cancer treatments for kids. Of course, I believe everybody should have healthcare, universal healthcare plan.
I do, a Medicare for all and whatnot.
But even if you look at this like as a conservative, or dare I say as a median voter, how can you fuck with any of this?
I know.
It's insane.
And it seems like people are waking up. It seems like people are looking at DOGE at these Republican town halls and saying like, yo, we didn't vote for this. We don't fuck with this. I just hope it's most people and not just these isolated instances, because what's happening is genuinely insane.
Well, it's like you needed one vote. Like the pressure sort of started on Republicans before this vote, with people yelling at town halls over the past few weeks. But we needed to flip one Republican, just one
or two. We need to flip two Republicans.
If the bill gets, was it two? No,
they would have been tied.
Thomas
Massey flipped,
but a tie means no bill in the House.
Yeah, Thomas Massey already flipped, so we already had one Republican that flipped.
But then it would have been 216, and it wouldn't have passed.
He already flipped.
No, that's what I'm saying. It was 217 to 215 when he flipped.
Yeah, so we would need 2 Republicans total to vote no.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah, 2 Republicans total to vote no. If we could have got one more guy, just one more guy. Then the bill would have failed. And there's so many guys that even those that aren't in like purple districts who are getting pressured like crazy by old white people that could make this happen.
And I've seen Republican representatives get like pressed about these cuts, and they just default to the DOGE thing. They default to, we're trying to get rid of waste, fraud, and abuse. And when they're questioned on that, when they're pressed on that, there's a lot of, rampant abuse and waste and fraud in these programs, so we're going to get rid of it. I think Sam Cedar has one of the best analogies to kind of summarize the situation. And he says that if a store is experiencing like a 10% revenue loss to theft, they're not going to start selling 10% less things. They're going to either invest in ways to stop the theft, or they're going to work it into their budget because it would be more expensive to stop it than deal with it. Yeah. And that's how we should be dealing with waste, fraud, and abuse within these government programs, within entitlement programs like Medicare and Medicaid.
And now I sort of wanted to say, like, the assessment they have of fraud in Medicaid is just fundamentally wrong.
Yes.
The vast majority of fraud in a program like Medicaid doesn't happen through the beneficiaries or the people applying for benefits. It happens through providers. It happens through hospitals, through doctors, through nursing homes that like lie to the government in terms of how much money they need, or they get funding to cover diseases that aren't covered under Medicaid or something like that. That's how fraud happens. Yeah. It isn't the beneficiaries lying. And so making it harder to get Medicaid, implementing work requirements, or changing the way in which you're eligible, that doesn't actually stop the fraud because you're punishing the wrong group of people.
Exactly. And it's like, I have hard numbers associated with this as well. The Georgetown School of Public Policy, using data published by HHS offices of inspector generals, the people in the government whose job it is to audit the government that Trump unilaterally fired, shows us that as of May 2024, people who receive Medicaid were only responsible for about 2% of the total fraud.
Exactly.
Medicaid beneficiaries were only responsible for 2% of the fraud. The rest of the fraud comes from places like nursing homes, medical equipment suppliers, and shitty doctors that do everything. That's where the waste, fraud, and abuse is. You need to crack down on those people, not just take away benefits from the most vulnerable people in the country.
And you know, one way that happens is like, you know, Medicare being able to negotiate.
Oh, yeah.
That's one way that happens.
I think it's estimated. I have it right here. Biden did it. Biden worked hard to fucking get into place a policy where Medicare can negotiate prescription drug prices. And the Congressional Budget Office estimated that was going to save $100 billion from the program.
Yeah.
A $100 billion cut to Medicare while making the service better, all because you are stopping providers from gouging the government.
Yeah, that's like cutting Medicare but good.
That is going after waste, fraud, and abuse. Not whatever Republicans are doing. And they are completely unserious. This is frivolous bullshit.
Yeah, and the issue here is that like going after quote unquote waste, fraud, and abuse is not like sexy or appealing.
Yeah.
It has to do with like hiring auditors and giving them like years to comb through data and to monitor things and stuff like that.
You pay guys with goofy names like inspectors general.
Yeah. Like
and they do it.
Actually getting rid of fraud in these entitlement programs or just in government programs generally has nothing to do with like posting on Twitter.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, that's all these fucking charlatans can do.
And it's like the actual data about waste, fraud, and abuse is publicly available. Actually, it comes out every single year. You can go look it up. We did not need a team of cracked out fucking 19-year-olds who worked in tech beforehand under the fucking advisory of Elon Musk to command F a bunch of documents and just get rid of things that they think seems fishy.
Yeah, it's like... almost all of government spending is public data. Like you can look at the bills. Actually, it's all public.
You know,
documents.
Things that are done in the public sector are publicly available.
Like some shit is classified. That's also why we need like a full audit of the Pentagon, which they haven't been able to do on their own. Some of the spending is classified, of course, but the vast majority of it is public data. And we know, like the Congressional Budget Office puts these numbers out every year.
Yeah,
and they'll show you pie charts of how it breaks down.
We have it. If smart constituents could go to their representatives and say, "Why don't you focus on this instead?" But like nobody wants to do that because it's not sexy to go sit there and look at government websites.
Yeah, and
it's not sexy to spend your Friday night looking at the Georgetown School of Public Policy.
And constituents could go and do that, but that still doesn't absolve Elon Musk and Republicans of fucking lying, or Trump of fucking lying on this issue.
Absolutely not. And it's like Republicans just want you to fucking die.
Literally,
that's the fucking message here.
That's the message.
Republicans want the most vulnerable among us to just fucking die, and they're not really doing much to hide it anymore. You know what I'm saying?
And Democrats need to say this shit.
Yes.
Like I'm not joking. Like there was, I keep forgetting his name, but it was a Florida congressman back like decades ago who had the sign in Congress that just said Republican healthcare plan, die quickly.
That's real?
Yes.
That's the type of fucking shit we need.
He was on the floor of Congress and it said Republican healthcare plan, die quickly.
Like what? Republicans get out on the House floor and show pictures of Hunter Biden's cock. And you're telling me that we can't get a Democrat out there to say that they want your grandma to die because they're actively doing things that will socially murder your grandma?
Yeah.
Let's just fucking call it like it is. And when they get pressed on this, like Johnson was pressed on this earlier this week before the bill passed, he was asked explicitly about Medicaid cuts. Since Medicaid cuts are fucking insane, he tried to justify the $880 billion they want to take away from the program by saying it was for, quote, rooting out fraud, waste, and abuse, including, quote, making sure that illegal aliens who do not qualify are not on the rolls.
Come on, man. How would they even get on the rolls?
We're fucking... We're evil intersectionality?
Yeah.
Like, what is going on here?
Wait, who did you say said that?
Mike Johnson.
Yeah, okay.
The most unserious man in the fucking government. Yeah. And he's got like an air of seriousness about him. He's not just like a outright clown like, I don't know, Josh Hawley and Matt Gaetz were.
Of course, yeah.
But like, this is a clown answer. This is not an answer that should be taken seriously in a strong democracy. You should not be able to just say, waste, fraud, and abuse, we're going to help it by just not offering the program. You could get rid of 100% of the waste, fraud, and abuse in Medicaid if you cut Medicaid. Just completely.
True.
You just get rid of the budget, then we have no fraud.
Like, yeah, they'll make allegations that there's illegal immigrants benefiting from like the VA or Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, whatever. But it's also like, they're people.
They're people, yeah.
They're humans.
I'm like okay with that.
I'm actually cool with everybody getting health care.
Especially because, like, I guarantee you policies like Medicare not being able to negotiate prescription drug prices are costing us way more money than, I don't know, a couple handful of illegal immigrants that somehow get to draw on Medicaid when they go to a hospital for an emergency.
Yeah, exactly.
I also think it's a good thing to treat people and give them health care no matter who they are.
We also know what it looks like when Medicaid does massive cuts. Like, I think it was Georgia and Arkansas tried to do these like sweeping work requirements on Medicaid because, again, administered by the
like Mike
states.
Johnson wants to do.
And it kicked literally tens of thousands of people off their health care.
Nice.
And it was a massive disaster.
Nice.
Just a complete disaster. And wouldn't you know, bad for the economy for people to be spending so much money on healthcare. Not that we have any kind of good system for managing that. But.
Republicans want to hide behind waste, fraud, and abuse and broad government inefficiencies while they actively work to kill you and make the government more inefficient.
Yes.
Yeah, that's the story. Like, you can't make it up because it already is the thing.
Yeah.
That's the reality that we found ourselves in now. And, that's Medicaid.
Yeah, and like them cutting Medicaid as well sinks you further into medical debt and makes you more beholden to these giant health insurance companies, which is good for their donors.
Was it not the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau that put in the policy that medical debt cannot be reported on credit reports?
Yeah, CFPB. Yep.
The CFPB... Not only are they getting rid of Medicaid,
an ontologically good organization.
That is actively helping Americans not be fucking killed and crippled by medical debt, they are getting rid of the organization, or at least trying their hardest to gut and get rid of the organization that stopped you from not being able to get an apartment because you had that medical debt that they're trying to make worse in the first place. Republicans want to kill you, make the government inefficient, and if they're not killing you, they want you to never be able to get an apartment again if you ever have a medical emergency.
Exactly.
That's what's going on right now.
And like that needs to be the message because it's not even an exaggeration.
And we have a feckless Democratic Party that doesn't want to say anything.
Yeah.
And I'd also like to mention, like, while we're talking about this big Republican budget and while we move on from Medicaid, that notably, despite Trump talking about this, his entire campaign, touting this multiple times on the campaign trail, making promises that on day one he would do this, there is no mention on no tax on tips, no mention on no tax on overtime, and no mention on no tax on Social Security in this bill. Mm-hmm. Those three things are not here. They're not present. There is not a single Republican that is actively working on trying to eliminate tax on tips, overtime, and Social Security, like Trump said they would be doing. And Trump is not trying to get them to do it.
And the craziest part is that after this bill passed, they just lied and said it was in the bill.
Yeah.
Like, so many people on Twitter were just like, I'm so grateful the Republican Party just passed no tips on or no taxes on tips, and the Democrats voted against it. Just a lie. It's just not true.
I saw Republicans getting in people's comments saying, like, yeah, there is no tax on overtime now. Did you read the bill? Bitch, you don't even know what a government website looks like.
Never even been to a .gov.
Oh my God.
Never been to a .gov.
It's ridiculous.
Man, that is crazy. Before we get into the VA stuff, speaking of feckless Democrats, when you were talking about that, a moment from this past week, I guess maybe it was 2 weeks ago, flashed into my mind like a nightmare. Because I recalled this moment, and at first I didn't want to play it on the show.
Okay.
But it is so up our alley that I feel like I have to.
We just have to?
This is Democrat Robert Garcia, I believe. And he's, the Democrats, they're tossing around different messaging strategies, right? They don't know exactly where they're going to fall yet. And I guess we can see what you think of this one, of this one here. I got to load it up, so let's see.
Fuck.
In the last Congress, Chairwoman Green literally showed a pic in our oversight congressional hearing. So I thought I'd bring one as well. Now, this, of course, we know is President Elon Musk. He's also the world's richest man.
Isn't that good?
That's good. I fuck with that, Loki.
That shit's funny as hell.
I fuck with that heavy.
Hang on, there's one more I want to find that we...
We also know, of course, that Elon Musk is sending his unqualified DOGE staff to carry out this agenda across all these agencies. And in some cases, actually teenage staffers. No accountability, no experience, and problematic records. They're trying to rob you, and they're probably a minor.
That one's rough. That's a tough listen, isn't it?
That's a typical Democrat response.
Yeah.
But you know what? It's better than Hakeem Jeffries.
Yeah.
It's better than
Someone's
Hakeem
trying.
Jeffries.
Someone's
it's
trying.
better than Chuck Schumer.
Yeah.
This is the type of corny that I don't want to illegalize when I take over.
Yeah. At least someone's trying something, but the A minor thing just maybe don't. Maybe don't do that.
Oh, man.
Anyways, time to get into some VA cuts here.
We love talking about veterans on this podcast.
Yeah, I'm a veteran.
Just
kidding. That's stolen valor. I'm a veteran of the culture war.
Exactly. Oh, I am.
Yeah.
Then 100%. I'm a veteran of these trenches.
But we got to talk about VA cuts because one thing that wasn't really mentioned in these budget negotiations, but has been floating around and has certainly been sort of circling DOGE recently, is cuts to the VA. And last week, VA Secretary Doug Collins, with Elon Musk's support, of course, announced $2 billion in cuts to quote-unquote wasteful contracts at the VA. Now, this was specifically framed as getting rid of contracts that pay consultants for PowerPoints. Like, this is what he taught. He was like, no more paying consultants for PowerPoints and presentations and that kind of shit.
Okay.
That is, like, exactly what Collins said here. And he said this money that we save will be redirected to benefits, which...
And I'm sure he's being entirely truthful with that, right?
No, if you could believe it.
What?
The AP, and this is why I was sort of gassing up the AP earlier, but the AP obtained a full list of the 875 contracts on the chopping block at the VA, and quote, the cuts would affect everything from cancer care to the ability to assess toxic exposure.
The GOP wants veterans to die of cancer.
Literally.
The GOP wants veterans to get cancer and die from it. That's crazy.
Yeah. So I figured we could go through a couple of the sort of quotes from this story here. Another one is, one contract that was on the chopping block supports assessing veterans' disability ratings. Those evaluations are one of the most important steps needed for a veteran to qualify to have their medical care covered and receive financial compensation if they are wounded due to their military service. An inaccurate rating can have a long-term impact on their access to care and financial support.
So they wanted to cut a contract that was just there to help people get more accurate disability ratings?
Yes.
Talk about PowerPoints and consultants, huh?
Yeah, and like all the stuff is contracted out. You know what I mean? Like all of the the VA is just a department of the government. They contract out with funding from Congress.
Yeah.
A bunch of different stuff to get veterans services they need because they often come back wounded or in need of like mental therapy or physical therapy or something like that. This would actively cut a lot of those services. And the VA already runs like shit.
Yeah, it's already just like, they're already crazy overworked over there.
The VA has already complained about quite a bit. Some of the other contracts included services for data collection and analysis, PTSD treatments, programs for homeless veterans, and a whole bunch more. So
PTSD treatments.
Yeah.
Bringing back PTSD in a big way.
Yeah. So all of this was put on pause recently. So the contracts aren't gone yet, but there's still 875 of them on the chopping block here. But of course, this was seriously damaged long-term and short-term capacity for the VA to assist veterans. Again, a department that already is sort of decried for being slow.
But it's like, I guess like an underrated aspect of the conversation when it comes to like cutting all these contracts is it's like, are these contracts that like haven't gone out yet? Or are these contracts that they're just canceling where they've already spent most of the money, but they're claiming the savings from the full value of the contract? Because I know that's a lot of what DOGE has been doing when they look at like their fucking $8 million in cuts that they accidentally labeled as $8 billion. Mm-hmm. And all their money that they've lied about taking has been from contracts that have already mostly paid out that they just canceled at the tail end.
Yeah, I wonder if they think that contracts are like, every single contract is just like you pay the full amount immediately.
Yeah.
Which is not how any of this works.
Yeah.
I have no idea. The AP didn't like discriminate based on what contract is in progress versus how much they've already spent.
Because like I'm gonna assume a lot of these have already been paid out in a significant way.
Yeah, I mean there's hundreds of contracts.
And any of these quote unquote savings that are already bullshit aren't the savings for the full amount that they're reporting to you. I'd also like to point out that DOGE has just been lying about money that they've saved. They've routinely edited the numbers on their website because they've just got it wrong.
Yeah.
Every time, really.
Yeah. Another quote here, and look, we always sort of preference these discussions of DOGE with this like thing where we say, yes, efficiency is good and we want to do that, but DOGE isn't doing it the right way and whatnot.
Yeah. And
that's sort of what this is here, because the VA has grown over the years, and that was one of the criticisms from DOGE, but, quote, former VA Secretary David Slotkin, who served in Trump's administration in the first term, said that while the agency has gotten larger and there are likely savings to be found, the VA grew in part to meet the large expansion of veterans enrolling to get care under the PAC Act. More than 740,000 veterans signed up for coverage after the law passed, according to a September 2024 VA press release. The PAC Act was the one for toxic burn pit exposure.
I was going to say, that's the one where it's like if you got cancer because you were around a burn pit, now you can get VA benefits from it.
It was the one the Republicans.
Disability rating.
It was the one the Republicans initially opposed.
A party of veterans.
Yeah. Yep.
Party of veterans. Wasn't Tommy Tuberville leading the charge, the anti-veteran charge on that one or something like that?
Yeah, well, because they're greedy and they're mooching off the government.
Well, 100%.
They're leeches off the public dollar.
Definitionally, these federal employees.
And to your point about DOGE being sort of incompetent, I had one last quote from this story here. Quote, an internal VA email sent Tuesday and seen by the AP, in an internal VA email sent Tuesday and seen by the AP, a VA contracting official said DOGE targeted contracts broadly categorized as consulting, but they included ones that, if terminated, would halt chemotherapy and imaging services. So my speculation here is that they hit Control F and typed in consultation. I think that's what they did.
Well, because that's how you find the consultants.
And so
consulting only means one thing.
Right. So, yeah, that includes consultants for PowerPoints, for DEI or whatever. And that also includes, like, cancer consultations or PTSD consultations.
With physicians.
Yes, exactly. That's my theory, is they did Control F consult.
They ran it through an AI program and had them go through all these things. Man, they're so stupid.
And it's like you're not finding enough in the VA to cut that's going to equal $2 billion. You're just not without cutting essential services.
In fact, you could really just skip the VA. You could just skip that one. I don't think we'd lose out on much if we did somehow get to that $2 trillion number.
It's bad out here. The congregation is missing someone. And that someone, dear listener, is you. The congregation awaits you over on our Discord. If you go into the description of this episode right now, there will be a link to join the Head in the Office Discord where you will find more than 1,000 like-minded individuals for you to interact with. And maybe most importantly, we'll be there.
1,000 members strong. It is a burgeoning community of Hiddo-heads.
That's right.
Ready to receive you into their arms. Make you a part of the community. Vest you as a Hiddo-head.
Over on Discord, we have discussions. You can interact with other Hiddo-heads. And maybe, for some fun, we can do some community events. And we know that you want to be a part of that. Only available over on the official Head in the Office Discord. Moving on from the budget cuts, though.
Yeah.
We have a contender for corniest person alive.
Gotta be.
Competing with J.D. Vance.
And that's not a competition you ever want to be in.
No.
That's when it comes to like being corny and lame and awful, that's a high bar.
Yeah.
J.D. Vance is.
And the worst news is that to talk about this candidate, we got to bring it back to our home state.
Oh.
We're bringing it back to Michigan. We have a contender for corniest person alive in the state of Michigan, and that's bad.
Whoever said that, like, God, what is it? Democrats and Republicans from swing states are just the most fucking militant and crazy people alive, just fucking got it right, man.
Yeah.
Because we have J.D. Vance out of Ohio and now this fucking guy. Mm-hmm. When are we going to get the crazy Democrats?
The Midwest is a cauldron for, like, Mao.
Yeah.
The rebirth of Lenin, but
and
also
Thatcher.
Hitler. Well, and Thatcher.
And Thatcher in the same league, really.
We got everybody in the Midwest. Midwest fighting here like the Baltic states.
That's right.
It's crazy. But we got some news out of Michigan here, and unfortunately, to summarize the news, quick spoiler, Republicans are coming out against gay marriage in the state of Michigan. Yeah, small
words,
subset,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, you know where this is going. So last week, quote, State Representative Josh Shriver introduced a resolution asking the U.S. Supreme Court to overturn its ruling on Obergefell v. Hodges. At a press conference on Tuesday, Shriver declared that Obergefell defaced the definition of marriage, undermined our God-given rights, increased persecution of Christians, and confused the American family structure.
Increased persecution of Christians is insane.
Dog, it's a secular country. Separation of church and state, brother. It's a secular country.
Just because two dudes or two girls can kiss at the altar does not mean they are coming after you. Does not mean they are defacing the image of God and personally making fun of you.
It's like my favorite part here is increased persecution of Christians, because that just means like you can't be a bigot in public. And like that's not even punishable by law. It's just people get mad at you if you say slurs.
People will look at you weirdly if you look weirdly at the gay couple just because they're the gay couple.
Yeah. Allowing or I guess mandating in all 50 states that you have to marry gay couples, increase persecution of Christians. Be so for real, dog.
Oh my God, yeah.
So this guy is unequivocally evil. There was also one article that I was reading where he said Michiganders deserve, quote, freedom of conscience, which again just means the freedom to be bigoted without consequence.
The freedom to not have to have gay people in my conscience.
Yeah. And usually I see this like freedom of conscience thing framed around like local public officials that they think shouldn't be made to certify gay marriage certificates or something like that.
Yeah.
But this guy's just calling for a complete overturning of Obergefell
I was
v.
going to
Hodges.
say, this is not making it so that like a Christian pastor can deny to marry the gay couple.
Yeah, which they can already do.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah, something that's already can happen.
It's that the state has to certify and allow for gay marriage. Like, you can't outlaw gay marriage in a state. But, like, if you go up to, like, a bigoted Christian pastor and they're just like, I don't want to do your wedding, they won't.
They won't,
You know what I mean?
You don't even have to make the cake anymore, I
No
don't
one's-
think.
no
You
one's-
don't have to make the fucking website either. Like,
Yeah, they ruled in 22 that you get to discriminate. Like, I don't... It's total nonsense. Of course, this isn't going to pass in Michigan. It's a resolution, so it's basically just like... It's basically saying, like, the Supreme Court should do this. Like, it's not a legally binding thing, even if it does pass. It's basically a letter to the Supreme Court.
It's just him sending a letter of evil to issue his support for evil. Joining a couple other, like, states across the country that have
I
introduced
think
similar
Idaho
things.
did something like this, yeah.
Yeah.
He also has 6 Republicans on board co-sponsoring this, so it's not just like a lone wolf situation.
And it's like Trump won by what, 1.5%, I think, in Michigan. And all of a sudden, motherfuckers feel Trump won by 1.5% in Michigan.
nationally, too, 1.5%.
They lost the Senate race, and Democrats still retained one chamber of the state legislature and the governor's mansion.
Yeah.
And now he feels emboldened to get out there and say this.
Yeah.
They have been itching
Yeah.
for any just like excuse to get out there and just be bigots.
And this guy got elected in 22. Like, he's been around for a minute.
yeah.
He got elected during like what was supposed to be the red wave around the country.
Trump won. I don't got to be woke anymore.
And now he's geeked. They doesn't have to be woke anymore.
Shit.
And like, if marriage is defined in such a way that it excludes a specific group of consenting adults, then something's wrong with the definition of marriage.
Yeah, that's just silly.
You know what I mean? It's stupid.
It's just dumb.
Like, you'll see motherfuckers like Ben Shapiro argue that marriage originally and now is only meant to like produce children, or some shit like that. But that is so clearly, maybe you love each other. Maybe that's what marriage is for.
I'm saying maybe different people think differently about different things.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why we have a democracy.
Yeah. And of course, I gotta hammer home. It's a secular country. There's lots of different religions. Now, I want to talk a little bit more about Josh Shriver, though, because I think personally, ever since this loser got elected, he's been auditioning for national prominence. So I want to go through some of what he's done so you can get an idea for what this dude is, what he does, and why maybe he's introducing this resolution now. So here's just a brief list of what he's advocated for. He's advocated for banning hormonal birth control. He's platformed Great Replacement theory, a Nazi theory, I'll remind you. He said he wants to ban gender-affirming care for adults.
Okay.
He voted against establishing Juneteenth as a statewide holiday in Michigan.
You got to go to work.
Yeah, and most, I don't even know if I can say worse because it's all bad, but he voted against the bills aimed at cracking down on sexual abuse in the wake of Larry Nassar.
Voting for sex pests, voting in favor of sexual abuse after Larry Nassar
Yes.
is like
He was one of 4 people voting no.
such like specifically evil work. Like I can't even like. What a symphony of evil. I don't know how to describe it.
evil is
After
cacophonous.
Larry Nassar, one of the biggest fucking like sexual abuse scandals in the fucking country. Bro said, I stand by it.
Yeah, biggest sexual assault scandal since Jim Jordan covered that shit up at Ohio State.
Yeah.
But yeah, this guy's a literal demon, and I think that he's just been trying to get attention. He certainly got national attention with this move on Obergefell, and I think he's auditioning here.
But it's like, what is he auditioning for? I feel like
This fits in with the Republican Party
it
nowadays.
fits in with the Republican Party, but it's got none of the sauce that like Marjorie Taylor Greene has.
He's
You know what I
sauceless.
mean? He just gets out there and he says something evil, but not even in like a weirdly charismatic way.
Yeah.
He doesn't even like get in like the media's face. I saw at the press conference where he announced this. He just didn't take questions. He just announced it and then left.
There was a representative who I believe is gay that was like sitting up front, like right in front of him.
And then he got up and took questions.
Yeah.
And it's like, he's not even about the game.
No.
He doesn't even love the game. He's got no love for it.
He doesn't got it like that.
He just gets out there to be corny.
I think this same dude was also set to host like an anti-abortion event. It was named something corny, like Free the Babies or some dumb shit. You know what I mean? It's
I'm
not
trying
that.
to free the babies when the mother wants them to be free.
It's not that, but it's like something fucking corny like that. Again, he's contender for most corny man alive.
Yeah.
And then he canceled it because a bunch of protesters were like set to show up.
He's not about it at all.
He's not. They canceled the event.
Oh my God, man.
He's a fucking coward, man.
What a little bitch. Like, you can't get out there and say the most evil things in the country and then, like, not be willing to at least stand by it at an event that you're set to host.
Yeah.
God damn.
Completely chickened out. So if you're wondering what's going on in Michigan, that's one of the things. I just want to say perfect time for Democrats to champion a ballot measure here to put marriage equality into the state constitution, because it's currently under attack by at least 7 state legislators and probably the federal government pretty soon.
And like, what, 2 Supreme Court justices have signaled that they're willing to overturn Obergefell, or they want it reconsidered. And Thomas, and I don't know who else, but I know another one.
Yeah, and they're in the ideological majority. And I do want to say, for Michigan specifically, if Obergefell is ever overturned, the state will stop doing same-sex marriages, because in 2004, voters approved a constitutional amendment to basically outlaw same-sex marriages in the state.
That's crazy that like 20 years ago, people like hated gay people.
Yeah.
Was it Hillary Clinton that like switched up? Like, she used to be like super
Biden
anti-gay.
Yeah.
Like, somebody switched up like recently. Like, I think it was Hillary Clinton, or maybe even it was like Obama. In his first Senate run, he said marriage should be up to the states, and then eventually in his presidential run, he switched up. But like, it blows my mind that Democrats even did not fuck with gay marriage. Like, what, more than 15 years ago?
I looked it up, and it was like 60% approval. Like,
That's so wild.
It was a pretty big margin.
It's like crazy looking at the early 2000s and seeing how like just homophobic it was. Dudes thought it was gay to eat pussy.
What a terrible world.
Like, shit was wicked back then, man.
Oh, man. But yeah, now is like the perfect time for Democrats to do something, because if Obergefell's overturned, the state law will kick in, or the constitutional amendment will kick in. And the only way to overturn that is for another constitutional amendment to come along. Now, I do think that if a Democrat's elected again in 2026 for governor and we get a Democratic AG and whatnot, I think for the most part, the state will continue to do it and just ignore the law.
Yeah, gas.
Like, other states have done that kind of thing, but Republican could get elected. Maybe Democrats would be feckless in the face of this change.
You can get a guy like
time.
Ken Paxton in the AG position who would enforce sodomy laws if they were on the books.
Yeah, like now's the time to do something about it because of the threats that we're facing.
Especially with the momentum that we have right now. Like, there is a serious moment right now where people are actually seriously challenging the idea that 2 people who love each other can get married. Mm-hmm. I think we can run with that. I think that's something they can do. But I don't know, Michigan Democrats don't seem to want to lock in right now.
Yeah, and also it's like federal benefits.
Yep.
Like they're federal benefits attached, and if you just exclude one group of people or you force them to marry in a way that they don't want to get those federal benefits, that's just discrimination. And I don't like that.
You force them into what's it called, like a lavender marriage, just so that they can get the tax benefits?
It's fucked up. In terms of other Michigan stuff, we did have the state of the state.
We did have the state of the state, and it was made me kind of disappointed to think that
Speaking of Democrats
Whitmer
being
was
feckless.
like a person that could have taken over from Joe Biden. It was mid. They started off the state of the state with like a bunch of like, thank you to X person, thank you to this, and there were some claps. But I thought it was funny that the longest standing ovation came when Whitmer said, and thank you to the law enforcement. Since when are we like on that wave? That shit's the type of shit that makes me think Chris Swanson's gonna win.
Yeah, I don't gotta be fucking woke anymore, man. No, it's crazy. Like some of the stuff was fine. There was some like weird stuff in there about like targeting young men for education and stuff, but I get what she's trying to do.
I didn't think that one was like as crazy, because I feel like the whole thing was wicked bipartisan, which I did not fuck with that at all.
My main takeaway was like they're trying to stop you from doing everything.
I think if you want to try to do that bipartisan like type of thing, one, don't fucking say you want to work with Republicans. Just appeal to things that, like, I guess young men care about, if that's a demographic you want. And the best way, I think, to get like young men more on board is just to speak to an issue like that. Mm-hmm. Just say, hey, look, young men are falling behind in college enrollment. We want you guys to be able to get educated. We're going to try and reach out to you. Yeah. I think that's like the easiest way to reach out to them. And that's how you do that bipartisan shit without actually saying, I'm going to work with the guy who wants Obergefell overturned.
Yeah, like don't be bipartisan as a first principle.
Yep.
Be bipartisan if like the procedure demands it, or if it means you can get something done, but then claim victory and fucking turn on them.
Or I guess it's like, don't attempt to reach out to Republicans by saying you're going to be bipartisan. Attempt to reach out to Republicans that are on the margins by, I don't know, doing policies that would just make people's lives better in a plain and simple way.
Yeah.
That's it.
It's absurd, man.
It's such a wicked... Why do you want to work with these people?
She shouted out Pete Hegseth.
Oh my God, why?
For no reason. And she was like, I knew that would get you standing talking to the GOP House leader. And it's like, well,
like y'all are buddies?
But like he's evil, though.
I think that politicians on opposing sides should hate each other.
Exactly.
I don't think that necessarily like you should hate your I think she mentioned this instance in the State of the State, actually, and I think it's important to talk about her since she's a 2028 hopeful.
Yeah.
She mentioned this instance at the State of the State about some buddy who lives in Michigan who's got a Republican neighbor, and every 4 years they put up opposing political lawn signs, but they always come to help each other out when they need it. And it's like, yeah, that's cool for like us. Mm-hmm. That's not cool for you. I want you to hate each other. I want you to fucking despise each other and only have to like come together when it's necessary.
Yeah. Well, and it's like, just explain why Republicans are bad and evil. Like, we've been doing it this episode on a national level.
Yeah.
They want to take your health care away and they want you to die.
Yeah.
Like, and if Republicans are proposing that kind of shit at the state level, or, you know, cutting infrastructure spending or whatever it may be, call them out for that and accurately describe the outcomes of those policies.
All the wins that she has been getting, she just ceded completely to the Republicans when it came to messaging.
Like roads.
She has, that's been her whole thing. Like, her whole, like, governorship is fixing the roads. And let me tell you, she's been fixing the roads. I've been dealing with the traffic. Yeah. But my commute on US 23 is infinitely better now that my, like, route is fixed. Mm-hmm. The road is actually great now. It's beautiful. She's been fixing the roads, and all of a sudden she's like, yeah, I guess I could do better, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Tout your accomplishments.
Yeah.
Don't ever cede ground.
Yeah, and I think there's like a bill in the House right now, or like a GOP sponsored bill that's like gonna cut that.
Yeah.
Or is gonna pay for road investment by cutting education or some shit like that. Like, stop it.
Just stop.
Be the fucking opposite. And it's especially important right now, with her being a potential 2028 contender, because people want an opposition. Like, people don't want this stupid bipartisan shit. The Democrat won the Senate race in her state. People want to fight back against Donald Trump, especially now with him cutting all of this stuff. Throw some fucking punches.
Trump won because he was willing to call Joe Biden stupid.
Yes.
That's it. I'm telling you, that is it. He won because he lied about how he was going to bring egg prices down. Egg prices still on the up and up, by the way. And that he was going to deport immigrants, and he's just willing to call Democrats stupid and dumb. Yep. And that's what people want to hear, because you know what? Frankly, the Democrats have been stupid and dumb, and they're acting stupider and dumber right now.
Yeah. I don't even know who the party is at this point.
We do not need to be appealing to both sides of the fucking aisle right now. If you've got an accomplishment, run on that. Say that. Do not cede the fucking ground. Make it plain to people how you have made their lives better. Mm-hmm. And then you can continue to make them better as you get the Republicans out of office.
Yeah. We really need like a more Tim Walz approach to all of this, like in terms of rhetoric. Although I do think Tim Walz sort of jumbles his speech a little bit, sort of hard to understand sometimes, but like, he takes a direct approach. Like, these people are going to, they're going to kill you. Just now he's tainted, of course. So it's
unfortunately, man.
Bask in the glorious light of Hito merchandise.
Absolutely.
We have so much on offer that you can find right now at headintheoffice.com. We got stickers, we got shirts, we got hoodies, we got hats, we got everything you could possibly imagine. And it's divine, folks.
It's beautiful.
And it's one of the best ways you can support the show. So go and get some merch, bathe in the glory of the radiant Hito light, and support the show.
Support the show. We've got a variety of different colors. Mm-hmm. We've got blacks, we've got grays, and we've got green like money, most importantly. Mm-hmm. We love money here on this podcast.
So head over to headintheoffice.com, support the show, and get yourself some merch. But speaking of Trump himself, we can run through a couple of Trump shenanigans here this week. We sort of already talked about Republicans, but Trump has also been up to his own thing, of course. First thing, yesterday for us, the meeting with Zelensky.
That shit was so...
that shit was genuinely unhinged.
There was a point where Zelensky tries to explain the history of the recent history, the last 10 years of what's been going on with Russia post the annexation of Crimea. Yeah. I think Trump tried to correct him with the wrong date, and Zelensky's like, no.
I listened to the whole thing.
It was 2014.
He was talking in 2014, and Trump's like 2015. And then Vance and Zelensky were like, no, 2014. He was like, oh, okay.
So that was fucking funny. But either way, Zelensky starts explaining the various deals that have happened under Obama and Trump and Biden, Trump first term. And he's like, Russia violated the ceasefire. Mm-hmm. And then JD Vance, like an overprotective boyfriend, just starts yelling at him.
Yeah.
JD Vance just started yelling at Zelensky. You're not going to come in here to this fucking sacred office and talk to us like that. And he said, you're not going to litigate this issue to the American media. Is that not what he's here to do? Why is the press here then?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's Vance chimed in once before he went off the rails.
Yeah.
He got one question that he answered, and I think it was about his claims that you can get locked up for posting a meme in the UK or whatever.
Yeah.
He defended that statement, and then later on, He tries to tell Zelensky that, like, we're trying to do diplomacy, no more war, we have to do diplomacy. And the context of all of this is Zelensky knows that he's fucked, right? Like, he's not a dumb guy. He knows that U.S. support's either going to wane or completely cease. So he's trying to come to an agreement with Trump on fucking mineral rights in Ukraine to end this war. Basically, the deal before this all imploded was that the U.S. is going to set up a fund and get 50% of all revenue from Ukrainian mineral rights.
Oh my God.
50%, we're gonna strip mine the country as they try to rebuild.
Yeah.
And we're going to do something with Russia to get them to calm down. The deal wasn't done. But then J.D. Vance says we need diplomacy. And then Zelensky says, well, we can't do diplomacy without security because Russia has violated ceasefires before and they will do it again. And then he says, you have an ocean between you and Russia, so you feel safer. But if we fall, you will feel the effects.
Oh, yeah.
And then Trump says, you can't be negotiating terms right now. Not what he was trying to do.
And he's like, you have no idea what we're going to feel. I'm not going to feel any of the effects. Actually, I'm the biggest and strongest boy here.
And then J.D. Vance went fucking insane. And he was like, have you even said thank you since you got here?
Oh, my God.
Why are you ungrateful? Like,
and then
he's such a bitch.
You're here because you have manpower problems. And he kind of talks like Ron DeSantis.
Yeah.
Because you have manpower problems. And it's like, you have to conscript. And it's like, Russia's also a conscript army. Yeah. Russia's also having massive manpower problems and also sending people who don't want to fight to the front lines to die. Like, it's a problem, really. You can't just go after Ukraine for that one.
Yeah.
My guy.
Yeah. He's like saying the path to peace is diplomacy. And Zelensky's very obviously pointing out, like, Russia's not interested in, like, genuine diplomacy on this. Like, they invaded.
Pointing out historical examples.
And all Zelensky's saying is, like, we need security guarantees. Otherwise, like, we're basically just going to get fucked. And that's really what it is. Like, they're negotiating surrender for Zelensky here. This isn't a negotiation for, like, a ceasefire or an agreement or a lasting peace. This is pretty unconditional surrender.
I think, don't quote me on this, but I think these deals, at least one of the deals that I've seen, involve, like, Ukraine giving up land.
Yes, of course.
Like, it's they're surrendering. And they're not winning. They lost.
And then Trump coming in and taking mineral rights.
That's like, crazy.
It is genuinely insane. And, like, all the Republicans after this, like, right after this was televised, they're acting like Trump is, like, standing up to some authoritarian here.
He just looks like a baby.
He looked like a baby, but they're acting like he's Reagan telling Gorbachev to tear the wall down. Like, you will tear this wall down. Like, this moment of, like, U.S. supremacy over the USSR. But, like, it's not, that's not what's happening
You
here.
will whore yourself out to us.
Yeah.
God damn it. And then there's the moment. Do you know which reporter it was that looked at
Looked at Zelensky?
Looked at Zelensky and he goes, you need to put on, why are you coming in he's his fucking mom. Why have you come into the president's office and not put on a suit? You need to put on a suit if you're going to be here. Who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
Who the fuck? Elon Musk is in here without a suit every day.
Every single day.
Go tell that to John Fetterman.
Wearing fucking jeans, a t-shirt, and an overcoat.
Yes. With this dumbass hat that doesn't fit. Like,
And then Zelensky had a pretty good response. Like, Zelensky had to be measured the whole time.
Yeah.
Not to glaze the dude or anything. I mean, he's just another politician. But, like, he was like, maybe I'll start wearing a costume once the war's over.
And then he said something like, maybe
costume.
I'll get a suit like yours, huh?
Maybe a little less expensive, I think is what he said. Yeah. But then my favorite question of the whole time, this is after Trump and Vance were very triggered and, like, debate lording Zelensky here. Somebody chimes in and asks, what if Russia breaks the ceasefire to Trump? And then Trump goes, well, what if anything? What if a bomb fell on your head right now?
He's like, what if I fucking beat your ass right now, huh?
That's what I was going to say. Like, that's the kind of shit I'd say to my homeboy.
Exactly.
It's like, well, what if you don't make it to work tomorrow? What if I punch you in the fucking face?
Oh, I think we should rotate to circle right now because what if somebody tries to third party us? What if I fucking kill you right now and take your loot, huh?
What if I hit you in the head with the biggest rock I can find? Like, to say that to a reporter as the president, an extremely valid question. Like, incredibly germane to the topic being discussed. And he says, well, what if a fucking bomb falls on your head, right?
The most unserious fucking dude ever. Oh my! And then he got on Truth Social after the thing and he did these sacred halls posting.
Yep.
He said, Zelensky came in demanding of us in this sacred office. Brother, everybody's a Democrat when they get mad. Everybody's a Democrat. Everybody's a shit lib.
Yeah, it's like, I don't know, man. Dude's at war. Like, they want him to be grateful. He said thank you before, of course. He said thank you at the beginning.
He said thank you after, too.
Like, thank you for having me and whatnot. He's obviously not ungrateful, but bro's at war. Like, he's looking for security help.
What if I dropped a bomb on your head? That's a fucking crazy.
No, he just said, what if a bomb fell on your head?
Anything could happen right now. What if a sniper bullet fucking came and got you right now? That's a crazy shit. I would say that's the craziest shit I've ever heard, but we'll get into something in a little bit.
Yeah.
I think
it's just
crazier.
like seeing Trump and Vance genuinely crash out. Like, This wasn't measured at all. You could tell Trump the entire time, and Vance a little bit when he got to speak. They were both holding back.
Yeah.
And when you got to see Marco Rubio, like
little Marco sitting there in his chair.
He wanted to do something crazy. But Vance and Trump just actively crashing out after trying to hold it back the entire time was insane. Like, I don't know how you can look at that and think it went well. Like, especially because most Americans aren't like pro-Russia or anything like that.
And I feel like this just spawned an outpouring of support for like Ukraine. Like this was just
certainly from Europe.
This was an optical nightmare. Like even here, like,
and it's like, could you imagine if Trump and Vance had this energy from when Netanyahu came to town?
Oh my God!
Like if they went this hard against war, quote unquote. Wouldn't like that would have been insane. They could have taken all this energy and went this hard against Putin. Like, you've been waging this war for years and you still haven't won. They're a much smaller country. Like, you can't even get that far beyond your own board. Like, he could have went at Putin this hard.
Yeah.
Talked him down, walked the fella down, and it would have been cool.
They're not pulling up to Putin with reporters and doing like propaganda interviews with him. They're only pulling up Zelensky just to yell at him because they think they're going to get a moment, but they just make themselves look dumb.
Beating up on a guy who is desperately trying to secure more military funding or military
so that
assistance,
he can fight his defensive war,
which benefits us and Europe as well. Like, I don't know. It spawned an outpouring of support from European allies of Ukraine, which is good. But man, just a fucking embarrassment on the world stage.
What if a fucking bomb fell on your head?
That is hilarious, though. not in a good for Trump kind of way, but that's some shit I would say.
Exactly. That's what I say when I'm pissed on the game.
Yeah.
God damn.
What if you don't make it to work? What if I hit you right now?
Exactly.
How about that? Is crazy. In some other Trump news, tariffs are delayed once again. These are the tariffs that were originally set to go into place February 1st and then delayed to early March and has now been delayed to early April during that televised cabinet meeting that he had.
Oh, the one where Elon Musk answered all the questions?
Yeah. Just a side note, televised cabinet meetings generally, that goes crazy.
Yeah.
Biden should have done that.
Yeah.
I think it would have been much more transparent, and I think this is another example of Republicans just lapping Democrats. That being said, Elon Musk the only one standing up without a suit on, answering all the questions, not a good look.
Not a good look at all. No, not at all. Also, to Biden's credit, why he couldn't televise these meetings, he didn't have any. Didn't the reporting came out that they did not have a full meeting of the cabinet for like a year?
Yeah. That was during the Biden dropout era.
Yeah.
I think it was like from October 7th on, they just didn't meet as a full cabinet, which is crazy.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
In some other just random news, Trump posted an AI video of him taking over Gaza.
This
that
was
crazy.
the craziest shit I think I've seen in my entire 24 years on this earth, bruh.
Yeah.
He posts a fucking AI-generated, like, minute-long video, just Trump Gaza on the screen, and shows, like, a mother and a child, presumably Palestinian, just wading through rubble, and then all of a sudden they, like, walk through a portal like it's an isekai. They walk through the fucking wardrobe, and then all of a sudden it's Trump Gaza all rebuilt, looking like Dubai, with giant golden statues of Trump in the middle of it. What type of fucking, like, who made this?
Genuinely insane. Yeah, I have no idea.
I feel like that's a Hamas recruitment ad.
Well, number one, a Hamas recruitment ad. Also, it wasn't that favorable for Trump. Like, they had him like on the beach with his shirt off. He didn't like look good.
Yeah, they had JD Vance, or no, Elon Musk.
Him and Musk.
It's a real president.
Him and
they had Musk throwing money on a beach. Like, what does this have to do with the conflict?
Second to last, Dan Bongino, FBI.
Dan Bongino, FBI.
Podcasters moving up in the world. I got to support that at the very least.
That's true. First, they were allowed in the White House press pool, replacing the AP because the
asking
AP
dumbass questions.
Because the AP is an outlet that publishes lies, and now we're running the FBI. So I got hopes for us in 28.
The precedent is there. Yeah. Speaking of like AP and Reuters being banned and whatnot, I think Russian state media was there at the event, and also it's like we swapped out the AP and got some dumbass that's asking questions like, "Where'd you get the courage to side with peace, Mr. President?" And it's like, dog, what if a bomb falls on your head right now?
Fucking what's his name? Peter Doocy with Fox News?
No, it's some OAN guy, I think.
Either way, is it Peter that's with Fox News?
Yeah.
Yeah, he never asked dumbass questions like that, and he's a dumbass.
He's a dumbass. Like, these are extraordinary.
He's a dumbass, but he's not sucking on it like that.
Yeah. Last piece of Trump news here, Epstein files. a whole lot of nothing ever happens on this one. So Pam Bondi and Kash Patel made this whole event of handing out these Epstein files. They made like binders.
They hyped up this announcement like crazy too. Yeah. They're like, we are going to unseal the Epstein list, all the Epstein documents. We're going to release them to the public on whatever day. It's going to be big, people.
And then nothing happened. Nothing ever happens, of course. They made it a photo op where like libs of TikTok and DC Drano and Jack Posobiec were all there.
Nazis.
And any real information they actually gave out was shit that we already knew, like the flight logs type shit. Everything else was either redacted or just not there. It was literally nothing.
It was a binder full of pages with just black blocks because the entirety of the text would be blocked out. That's it.
It's making a fucking mockery.
It was so bad that like Dave Portnoy and Laura Loomer got on Twitter and are starting to turn on Trump.
Yeah, some Republicans are like genuinely asking what's going on, especially after that GOP House Judiciary tweet. Did you see that?
The Rick Roll?
Yes.
What the? That's a government account.
They said, yeah, the government account for the GOP House Judiciary dropped a link that was like Epstein files revealed. And then it was the link, and it was a tiny URL that took you to the Rick Roll video. You got Rick Roll.
That's got to be the same staffer that made the deportation ASMR video.
Yeah. Just another reminder, everything in this administration is either bigotry, hurting trans people, hurting immigrants, or transferring wealth. Shit like this is a complete charade.
Total clown show.
Just like releasing the JFK files. Nothing happened.
And, we want to talk about charades. We want to talk about charades. We've got what is pretty much the State of the Union, but it's not called the State of the Union, coming up this Tuesday. I will remind you, this is recorded on Saturday. So, unfortunately, Wednesday Weenies aren't going to get to hear our thoughts about it until next week. Everybody's not going to get to hear our thoughts about it until next week, but this will come out after.
You can hear our thoughts on Sunday. If you become
Exactly. Maybe that'll entice you to hear our thoughts about it early. So, it's like officially called a joint session of Congress from Trump, but it's the State of the Union. And, the Democrats made their choice for who's going to respond, and I don't think I've ever been more disappointed in my entire life. I don't think I've ever seen somebody miss the moment more in my entire life. They fucking chose Elissa Slotkin. Why the fuck are we choosing Elissa Slotkin?
They're choosing the entire party is missing the fucking moment.
She sucks so bad. Like, she's awful. she's uninspiring, and she is a radical centrist. She's the most middle Democrat, or I guess the most right Democrat in the fucking party, dude. She sucks.
She worked for the CIA under George Bush.
Yeah.
She's literally the deep state.
Yes.
Like, she's everything that they ran against.
Her Senate race on, I fuck with deportations, actually.
Yep.
She was one of the only Democrats to fucking break with the party and vote for the Laken Riley Act. And she has been one of the Democrats that has voted the most for Trump's cabinet appointments. She's a Republican.
Like the closest they can get to a conservative, basically.
It's ridiculous. And it's like, I want to go back to what I said earlier about like how so many Americans fuck with Trump because he's perceived as this like outsider who tells it like it is. Slotkin could not be more of an opposite. And not in like a good way where you want the opposites to like draw a contrast. Yeah. The opposite in, this is the exact opposite of what Americans want. This is the opposite of what inspires Americans.
She's been working in D.C. in some capacity since like 2004.
And it's like
what the fuck?
I hope that this doesn't age well. I hope that y'all listen to this on Wednesday and you're like, oh no, she actually did like a really good job. She talked about blah, 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 but I'm not hopeful.
Yeah, well, and
I'm not holding my breath.
Even if she does like a decent job and she calls out some of the fallacies or whatever and is like decent on the messaging, it's still like her as a person and her general opinions and what she votes for and that sort of thing is not what we need right now.
No.
And I just know she's going to say some shit like, well, Biden deported more people.
And it's like, oh my God, I think I might
shit.
fucking,
she's gonna be like, that's why the Democratic Party supported the Laken Riley Act, but Trump's deporting less people.
I think I might drop a bomb on my head if that happens. What if anything happens? And even if she does have a good response, like the bar is in hell. Straight up, the bar is in hell, dude. All you got to do is just say they're cutting Medicaid. Say they want to kill you.
Yes, that is the message.
Come on,
they want you and your kid to die.
And it's like I think they're trying to do this because she's perceived as like a normal candidate, bipartisanship and whatnot, but people do not want a return to normalcy right now. That's kind of why we got Biden, but clearly that failed. Biden's part of his whole thing was let's return to normal. These Trump years have been crazy, blah, blah, blah. Pandemic, we're going to recover. American Rescue Act. People didn't fuck with that. Look at where we are.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you don't believe me, if you haven't heard all the shit we've talked about Slotkin for I think like the past year, I want to read to you how she describes herself from her own website. Quote, Elissa believes that our government works best when we have two healthy parties that debates the big issues facing Americans. She has always tried to work across the aisle on issues like bringing critical supply chains back home, but she always stood her ground when it comes to issues of principle, like protecting our rights and democracy.
Yeah, big issues like fucking banning TikTok.
Yes.
Dog, drop a bomb on my head right now.
That's what I'm saying, man. She believes it's best when we have two strong parties. You should fucking hate each other. You should be screaming at each other in the goddamn halls of Congress, man. Yeah. I don't want you to be fucking getting lunch with the dudes who used to vote for Jim Crow. I do not want you getting lunch with the guy who wants gay marriage gone.
Yeah.
That's not an opinion that's compatible with democracy.
Yep.
That's not a strong Republican Party is a gone Republican Party. It doesn't exist. Like, that's crazy. And I will remind you again that she has been in the Senate for such a short time, but she has only used it for evil, voting for the Laken Riley Act and voting to fucking confirm Trump's appointments for the cabinet at record rates.
Yeah. And like the message, like if she doesn't say some shit about like I'm from Michigan and whatever percent of my population relies on Medicaid, which Trump wants to cut, and it's going to kill people, like if she doesn't hit that messaging, we're lost.
Oh, absolutely.
We're fucking lost.
Absolutely. And it's like, I can't, like, now that we've seen how she describes herself in that way, and we've talked about like how this is already a bad decision, I feel like this just portends doom for the party. Hakeem Jeffrey said about this, quote, she will communicate that Democrats are fighting to lower the cost of living and protect Social Security and Medicaid while Republicans cut taxes for their billionaire donors and Elon Musk. And, you know, maybe I'm nitpicking here, but I feel like it's not enough to just get out there and say Democrats are fighting for Social Security and Medicare. You need to explicitly say that they are fighting against Republicans to keep these things. Yeah. Just messaging in the affirmative isn't what people want. Yeah. People want an enemy. That's why immigration was so fucking popular this year. And there's a very clear, like, actual, like, real enemy that's, like, in Congress right now.
Yeah, and that's the sort of trouble that Democrats have been running into for quite a few election cycles now. And it's, like, appointing an enemy as the sort of center or focus of your frustration and anger and resentment towards the system. You have to assign an enemy. There has to be someone you can point to. Otherwise, the message gets muddled, right? Like Kamala Harris running with Liz Cheney, running with Mark Cuban, but also saying she's the working class candidate and not really pointing to billionaires or anybody else as like the reason that our system sucks so much for so many people. If you don't appoint an enemy, it's not going to work.
Not a single Republican shied away from getting out there and saying that Biden raised prices during his entire presidency. Yeah. Not a single Republican shied away from saying that Biden is pressing the gas up button to make gas prices more expensive. But you don't want to say that you're fighting against Republicans to keep entitlements that everybody fucking loves. Some of those popular policies in the country, it's not enough to just say you want to maintain these things. You need to say you are protecting them against conservatives. And, you know, even go ahead to name some.
Yeah.
Like Donald Trump and J.D. Vance and Mike Johnson, and, you know, Elissa Slotkin too, but but we can't do that.
Like the shit that I think is probably going to happen is like she'll call out the quote unquote MAGA Republicans, right? Like Trump and Musk.
But I know that's not all of you. I know some of you are sensible.
And she'll do like, I'm looking forward to working bipartisanly in the Senate to make sure blah, blah, blah. And it's like, dog.
It's like you can't.
They should be your mortal enemy.
I think it's a bad message to try to appeal to Republicans separately from their vote. And it's not that I don't think that like people do vote like. People as individuals are separate from their vote, because I do think there are. I do think there are Republicans that are generally out there that are just like misguided and ignorant and don't really know what they're voting for. I don't think it's a good message to try and reach out to those people because they don't know what they're voting for. They don't understand the consequences of their vote if they voted for Trump and are now upset that Medicaid may be cut.
Yeah.
It's not enough to appeal to that base instinct that they're just not one of those kind of Republicans, because they think they are one of those kind of Republicans. Yeah. They just don't think those kind of Republicans are bad. It's a bad message. All you got to do is appeal to the issues. And I think she said something in her statement about like thanking everybody for picking her, saying she's going to talk about the kitchen table issues, but it's like,
I hear that term too much. I hear that term too much.
I hear that term way too much from people who say way too little. You know what I'm saying?
Like Republicans don't want you to have a kitchen table or a set of chairs or silverware or anything.
Or your life, really.
They want you to be in the grave.
Like, they want you to have cancer, like tumors, like growing like crazy.
They don't. As long as they can give tax breaks, they don't give a damn.
Exactly. As long as Elon Musk can have more money in his pocket, it's fine. Whatever happens to you.
Yeah.
And that should be the message. That should be the message. They should just a tumor just constantly growing. Chuck Schumer, the other Democratic leader, said something I think was worse. He said, quote, I'm announcing Senator Slotkin will deliver our Democratic response to Trump's joint address. Nothing short of a rising star in our party, she's dedicated her life to our country. If Elissa Slotkin is a rising star in the Democratic Party, the party is dead. They are entirely lost. She has done nothing to inspire people, and I fear that this is mostly because she won in a red state and she outperformed Kamala Harris, because that's something Chuck Schumer had alluded to. Everyone outperformed Kamala Harris. Why don't we have Tammy Baldwin do it?
I was going to say Tammy Baldwin won.
Yeah, we have Tammy Baldwin. She's a progressive. She can actually give a good message out there. Why are we having Elissa Slotkin, the most centrist Democrat, do this thing? And we're having Gretchen Whitmer get out there and do a bipartisan state of the state. The Democratic Party is moving. They always learn the wrong lessons and wonder why they lose.
Yeah. Like, explicitly Kamala Harris lost. Well, there's a number of reasons, but explicitly it was her relation to Joe Biden and seeming too close to the establishment. Yeah. And now we're having literally a former CIA agent who does not shy away from that title giving the state or the joint session fucking whatever response.
Yeah. The not State of the Union.
Yeah.
Like, Democratic leadership does not know what they're doing.
No.
They fucking, we got Hakeem, Captain Chaos is over here. I like to call him Captain Chaos because he does blah, blah, blah.
I hate him. Oh man, look at my fucking opposition.
We finally get rid of Pelosi, and this is what we're stuck with?
Yeah.
God damn, man. And giving Democrats track record, he's going to live till he's fucking 102 and stay in the position. In my lifetime, I'm never going to rid myself of him. God damn, bruh.
Oh my God. This party, man. What are we doing?
They need to just play clips at the fucking response. Elissa Slotkin needs to get up there and sit in front of like a computer screen.
Guys, check this one out.
Play the clip of Trump saying, I'm not going to cut Medicaid, and then play a clip of the $880 billion Medicaid cut. That's it.
Yeah. I think so much of the problem is they need people that just naturally have the sauce. Like,
yes.
Trump's naturally got the sauce. Nothing we can do about him being saucy. Like, he just is who he is.
We can't. And it's like the bomb thing that's funny. Like,
it is funny as hell. Well, like, there are people in the Democratic Party that naturally have the sauce, like AOC, for example. Yeah. But they don't platform those people. Bernie Sanders is going around to every red district he can find and talking about oligarchy.
I think he's part of the tour is he's explicitly going to the most contested red districts in attempts to like flip seats. Why isn't anyone else doing that?
We're making this old man travel around the country.
AOC is out there working her ass off these committee meetings talking about how DOGE is lying to you. And we get nothing else?
Jerry Connolly.
We get Jerry Connolly putting out a scorecard?
We need to we need the Democrats to construct a sort of like shadow government or like a mirror government where like...
We need a real deep state.
Yeah, well, not even that. Like we need them to set up like a mirror government where they assign Democrats to just focus on one dude in the Trump administration. Like AOC just focuses on fucking Treasury Secretary Besson or whatever. Or Bernie Sanders just focuses on Elon Musk. And they just talk nonstop about how these people are evil and want you to die.
Take them down.
But they won't do that.
No,
they won't do that. I don't think they have the organizing capability to do that. And I don't think they also are that interested in saving these programs. At least a lot of them don't care that much.
They're categorically not about it.
Yeah. And a lot of them are just like centrist in the sense that like they don't believe anything.
Yep.
Like
Elissa Slotkin.
Anything that the system produces must be morally legitimate because the system produced it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if we get a piece of legislation that they vote no against that guts Medicaid, it's like, well, the system made it, so that means it's okay.
And it's just like
that's the law now.
I'm still so stuck on like we need to have a strong Republican Party because that's something that Joe Biden also said too. And it's
Nancy
like
Pelosi.
Why?
Yeah.
Like, the only way, obviously, like, yeah, you should have humility and you should recognize sometimes that, like, hey, maybe I might not have all the solutions, but, like, I don't want that for my politicians. I want my politicians to get up there and be, I'm going to fucking fix eggs and then actually, like, have a plan to do it. I'm going to fucking do Medicare for all uncompromisingly until I have to get it passed.
Yeah.
Like, I think politicians should hate each other.
Like, I think when they say they want a strong Republican Party, they're just thinking about, like, the 1980s when Republicans were less, like, outwardly weird.
That's because like, they all hated gay people back then.
They all hated... Well, and yeah, they could all be, like, buddies in D.C. and go and hang out after sessions of Congress.
Like, I guess it's because they just had disagreements about, like, the best corporate tax rate.
Yeah. Yeah, and there's a lot of issues, but yeah, they were like mostly aligned on like the broken windows policing shit and the war on drugs,
stop and frisk.
Yeah, I mean they were like Reagan Democrats back then, right? And Joe Biden's been around since the fucking
he could go get lunch with his KKK buddy, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like they could all hang out together, and now that's less. They can't do that as much because of polarization and whatnot. But I don't want a strong Republican Party. They're evil
really
and they want me to die.
Like, look at what they're doing. Honestly, they've just been on the up and up ever since Reagan with escalating the bad things that they've done.
And Republicans never say, I want a strong Democratic Party.
No, not once.
They wouldn't.
It's because they're about it. Like, low-key.
They'd never be like, I want a strong Democratic Party.
I need leftist policies with Republican attitude. That's what I need.
What if somebody
talk about bipartisanship?
What if somebody fucking mooches off this Medicaid for all program? What if a fucking bomb falls on your head? What if anything, huh? What if anything happens?
What if the fucking universe imploded on itself right now? None of this even matters?
What if you're a brain in a vat and none of this is real? What if?
What if we just live on a floating rock right now and none of this really matters and money's not real and
Exactly. And that's the attitude I'm taking into the rest of this.
But you know what is real?
This month.
You know what is real?
You know what is real?
What the hell?
Fucking Trump clowning on Zelensky, debate Lord and Zelensky, but pushing in the chair for Netanyahu.
I saw that.
That shows you where our priorities are, people. Keep that in mind.
I did really like that picture of little Marco just kind of retreating into himself on the couch next to JD Vance in his pants that are too short.
He's finally got everything he's ever wanted, little Marco. And now he hates his life.
JD Vance is, because like when you're a dude and you sit down in a suit, like your pants are supposed to rise up a little bit, not like JD Vance's do.
That shit goes up to his knees.
That shit is flooding like Florida's going to be flooding once climate change initiatives get gutted.
How does it even happen like that?
I don't know.
Are his pants just too tight? Like, what's going on?
Or does he just have them like, do they just sit like above his ankles already? Like
That's
when
crazy.
he stands up, like he's already wearing someone else's face.
I've never had a pair of pants do that.
I'm saying.
You know what I mean? Like never ever in my life. Because that shit goes up high.
Trumps don't do that.
No.
Everybody else in there with the suit doesn't do that. Zelensky's got jeans on like a real man.
Exactly, because he's working.
Exactly, he's a working class man. That's a blue collar guy right there.
Anyways, I think that closes out this godforsaken episode.
Yeah, it does. I wonder what fresh hell awaits us next week.
Always wondering.
But
Always wondering.
But I can't wait to talk about it with you all, and especially with these wonderful, beautiful people that support us on Patreon and get their postcards if they sign up for the postcard program, so they don't miss out on genuine heat like what's getting sent out this month. So I got to give a special thanks to Caden Kraut, Lord Tau the Radiant, Chris the Postman, Christy Beck, Dylan B., Andrew Harris, Mike Chaplinsky, Omar Zuno, Clayton LaFed, Mark Yeager, Caleb Joy, Rich Toro, Tari, Gavin Mayer Maldonado, Hunter W., Fergalaki, Max Vesquez, Jacob Rogers, Colton Woodbury, Fixer Punk, Jim Egbers, Jeff Muzzy, Big Burrito, Cincy Elks, Joe Stenstrom, Adrian Sandoval, Chloe Sam 601, Colleen Cutsford, Yuck, Jennifer DeVoe, Big Bird, Titty, Crawfish, Benedict Pennington III, Alexia Benanti, Nietzsche, Big Booty Beatdown, Sam Maloney, Two-Headed Boy, Ben Trio's Boyfriend, Ted Cruz's Boy Toy, Dictator Jace, Luke O'Shea, Cucker Tarleson, Daniel Jackson, the Word of Microsoft, Jennifer Science, Aaron and his Gundam Gundams, Darth Father, Tailored for Content, Corey Chambers, Ellie N, Devin Hatchard, Retro Mondo, M the Dude Slayer, Veronica aka V, Raxon, Ash Smith the Grottler, Flower Clown, Beetlebugs, Murder in a Trench Coat, Lonnie Rogers, Slavic and Sapphic, Casey Lynn Kelly, Snake Eyes, and Hope of Giants, AK Gon, Zach Lantian, Info Russell, Austin Greif, Marcus Corbett, Caleb Roper, Taylor Rensock, Cammy, Tylen Freeman,
Tay-Tay, Isaac Hodges, Madeline C., Kayla Lowe, Anna Volinick, KCC, Say Yes to Wes, August, Particular Pickman, Sir Capalot, Jeff Sines, Howard the Duck, Brennan is Egg, JR, Drew Batchilder, Froggy Gumdrop, Jackie Boy, Shameless, Coherent Babbles, Sasha, MJ Sharp, Michaela Muncie, The Wallace 3000, Jared Finch, Tactical Snowflake, Son of Ander, Vanilla Bryce, Chris T., Kishan Lala, Amanda R., Hakey Panky, Tyler J., Damian Blues, Ashley White, Particulon, Memfrez, Lauren, Uncrestmatic Boar, Sasquatch, Rhonda Stiletto, Midwest Marxist, Joe the Mailman, Gary from West Michigan, Shawnee GG, Juniper Not Jupiter, Stacked Crabs, I Crowley, Urban Peach, Lord of Forlorn, Holt Forsyth, Kevin Kasaya, Schnoodle, Booty Snakes, Erica, Krusty Krab, Do Fairy, Chelceratops, Austin Lima, Lane Waltz, Azim Fitted Hussein, Gorgeous Girl Mukes, Brooklyn G, Noverk the Dastardly, Goldthorn, Addie Book, Merlin, John from Houston, Anaya, Kryal Bongi, That Art Dork, Sergeant Pookie, Connor Nix, Jordan T, Kim Kitsuragi, Rose Grimm, Kristen, Jamie the Young Extremist, Jack the Heathen, Archer W, Evan Mingo, AJ Torres, Elo Nico, Jake Hall, Seth Schmidt, Daniel Stock, Noah Sajas, Majawat, Ultra the Dragon, Mercy Boku, Dick Cheney and 6-inch heels, and my mom. Thank you all so much for supporting the show on Patreon.
Wonderful.
You know, maybe we need to audit the Patreon list. Maybe there's waste, fraud, and abuse. In the thank you list.
There probably is waste, fraud, and abuse in the thank you list. Some of you probably just trying to get on there to delete your membership, thinking we're gonna forget. We got massive audits coming in, folks.
Yeah,
you better fucking watch out.
I'm just gonna fucking Control F DEI, everyone's name with the DEI.
Because if it's got a DEI in it, that's you probably woke.
Condemnable.
Very condemnable. Anybody, DEI, W for woke.
And if you're committing Patreon fraud, that's a crime.
Yeah, it is.
And you're going to go to jail.
Oh, you guys fucking get ready. I'm hiring an inspector general. I'm actually hiring a 19-year-old to go over all this data. I yoinked him from MSU's comp sci program. And
you're
we're
fucked,
gonna go
buddy.
Crazy. Yeah, that's right, buddy. You fucking count your days, huh? And just remember, if you want to get on that list, help us contribute to Hiddo episode inflation by making the list longer. We're trying to increase Hiddo episode inflation as much as regular inflation increases. So keep that in mind.
Hard goal to hit. Really tough goal to hit. We're gonna, by the end of this administration, we're gonna have to be hitting like 16 episodes a week.
Exactly.
We're not gonna be able to leave the studio.
Basically, I'm gonna be living in here. I'm gonna be Hassan.
Oh my God.
Twitch streaming.
Thanks for listening, everyone.
Have a great week.